Most people don't hate their job. They hate the feeling that it's not enough. You wake up, you work, you get paid, you repeat. And on paper, everything looks fine. You have income, you're not unemployed, you're not in crisis, you're not in survival mode. But somehow, you still feel pressure, not panic. Pressure. A quiet tension in the background of your life. One unexpected expense creates stress. One rent increase forces adjustments. One missed paycheck would change everything. That feeling has a name. It's the modern salary trap. And it feels worse today than it ever has before. Not because people are lazy, not because people are irresponsible, and not because everyone suddenly forgot how to manage money. It feels worse because the structure changed, and most people never updated their expectations. Let's break this down clearly. For decades, the formula was simple. Get a stable job, earn a decent salary, live responsibly, build slowly. The idea was that stability equals security. And for a long time, that model worked. But today, stability doesn't feel like security. It feels like maintenance. And maintenance is not the same as freedom. Here's what's happening. Let's imagine someone earning a solid middle-class income. Not rich, not struggling, comfortable. On paper. After taxes, their take-home pay looks reasonable. But when you examine modern fixed costs, the picture changes quickly. Housing consumes a large percentage of income. In many cities, rent or mortgage payments easily take up 35 to 45% of net pay. Transportation adds another layer. Car payments, insurance, fuel, maintenance, healthcare premiums, and out-of-pocket expenses. Groceries that cost noticeably more than they did just a few years ago. Utilities, internet, phone plans, subscriptions. Then debt. Student loans, credit cards, financing plans. Each category alone seems manageable. But combined, they create something critical. High fixed cost density. And this is where the modern salary trap begins. When most of your income is allocated to fixed costs, your margin shrinks. Margin is the difference between what you earn and what you control. When margin is thin, you feel pressure, even if your income sounds impressive to others. Now here's where it gets more subtle. Inflation doesn't just raise prices, it reshapes expectations. When prices rise faster than wages, purchasing power erodes. Even if your salary increases, it might not outpace the real cost of living. So you experience what feels like progress. But structurally, you're maintaining position, not advancing. And maintenance mode is exhausting. Because psychologically, humans need to feel movement. Forward movement, improvement, expansion. When income rises but lifestyle rises equally, nothing changes internally. You still feel tight. You still feel limited. You still feel replaceable. This is not accidental. It's structural. The modern economy is built around consumption normalization. As income increases, so does baseline spending. Not because people are reckless, because the environment encourages it. Better apartment, newer car, more convenience, more subscriptions, more services. Each one justified, each one reasonable, each one small. But together they solidify your baseline. Now here's the trap. Your salary becomes responsible for sustaining your baseline, not building leverage. And leverage is what creates freedom. Let's talk about leverage for a moment. Leverage means income that is not directly tied to hours worked, assets that generate returns, margin that absorbs shocks, flexibility. Most salaries offer stability, but very little leverage. If you stop working, income stops. If you reduce hours, income reduces. If you lose the job, everything pauses. That creates structural vulnerability. And vulnerability creates anxiety, even if everything looks stable externally. Now let's address something important. Why does it feel worse now? Because comparison is amplified. Social media, visibility, transparency. You constantly see alternative lifestyles. Entrepreneurs, investors, remote workers, Digital creators, people who appear to have escaped the salary model. Even if those images are curated, they reshape perception. So a stable job no longer feels like success. It feels like containment. And that psychological shift intensifies the trap. It's not just economic, it's emotional. Now let's examine something deeper. The original middle-class model assumed rising real wages. It assumed predictable housing markets. It assumed affordable education. It assumed manageable healthcare costs. But over time, these assumptions weakened. Housing appreciated faster than wages. Education costs increased significantly. Healthcare became more complex and expensive. And debt became normalized as a bridge between income and lifestyle. So the modern worker earns more than previous generations nominally, but experiences tighter structural pressure proportionally. That's why it feels worse. Because the mental model didn't change, but the economic environment did. Let's go even deeper. There are three forces compressing modern salaries. First, fixed cost inflation. Second, lifestyle creep. Third, time-income coupling. Time-income coupling means your income is directly proportional to your availability. You trade time for money. And there's a ceiling. You can only work so many hours. So even if you increase your rate, you are still constrained by time. Meanwhile, expenses do not care about your time constraints. They continue rising. And when margin becomes thin, psychological pressure increases. You start optimizing small decisions. You hesitate before spending. You delay upgrades. You calculate more frequently. That mental load adds weight. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. The trap is not designed to make you poor. It's designed to make you stable. Stability is productive for the system. Predictable earners, predictable spenders, predictable debt payers. But stability without leverage feels stagnant, and stagnation feels suffocating, especially when you're ambitious. Now let's be clear. This is not about blaming employers, or blaming the economy, or claiming conspiracy. It's about recognizing structural reality. A salary provides income. But income alone does not create upward mobility in a high-cost, high-consumption environment. Without intentional leverage building, income becomes maintenance fuel, and maintenance mode feels worse every year because expectations increase, responsibilities increase, and flexibility decreases. Now let's shift perspective. If someone earns $70,000 in a moderate-cost city, they may survive comfortably. But if housing costs spike, if insurance premiums rise, if property taxes increase, if inflation persists, their margin tightens further, and that tightening feels personal. But it's structural. This is why raises don't always solve the problem, because raises often get absorbed by rising baselines. You feel temporary relief. Then the pressure returns. That's the trap. It's modern because the compression is modern. And it feels worse because visibility is higher. In previous generations, comparison was local. Now it's global. You compare your stability to someone's highlight reel. And stability loses its emotional reward. Now here's the important question. Is the salary itself the problem? No. The problem is relying exclusively on salary as the path to expansion. A salary can provide foundation. But foundation is not the same as freedom. If you want freedom, you need margin and leverage. Margin means reducing fixed cost pressure strategically. Leverage means building income streams not tied entirely to time. This doesn't require radical risk. It requires awareness. Awareness of the trap. Awareness that maintenance is not advancement. And awareness that the structure changed. The modern salary trap feels worse because people sense the imbalance. They sense that effort does not equal expansion anymore. They sense that raises don't create breathing room. They sense that stability feels fragile. And when stability feels fragile, it stops feeling secure. That's the emotional core of the trap. You're not failing. You're navigating a compressed environment. The solution is not panic. It's clarity. Clarity about costs. Clarity about leverage. Clarity about where margin can be created. Because once you understand the trap, you stop blaming yourself. You stop chasing raises blindly. You start thinking structurally. How can you reduce fixed cost density? How can you increase flexibility? How can you decouple some income from time? How can you widen your margin? That's the shift. The modern salary trap isn't dramatic. It's subtle. You're not poor. You're not rich. You're maintained. And being maintained feels worse every year. Because deep down, you don't just want stability. You want movement. You want expansion. You want optionality. And optionality comes from leverage, not from salary alone. So if you feel pressure despite earning what once sounded like a good income, you're not irrational. You're reacting to a structural squeeze. The question isn't whether your salary is good. The question is whether your structure gives you margin. And once you start thinking in terms of structure, you stop living inside the illusion, and you start building outside of it. That's the difference between being stable and being free.